We are going to be speaking very much about hiring, part one, hiring new talent, whether it's group fitness instructors, personal trainers, Pilates teachers, or anything in between.
Mhm.
And we are going to format this episode in beginning with our own wonderful stories that we've had the pleasure of experiencing as hiring managers in the fitness industry. And then we'll take it into some of the potential venting moments where we review some of the things we see about resumes as we're reviewing them and determining if they should make it to the next stages of the hiring process. And then the final piece of this episode will be all about how to help you strategize, how to help you weed through the crap that you see on resumes, the crap that you have to work through before you take them to the next step. And we'll do our best to keep this nice and short for you because we like to do that as well. So cheers, Jessica. What are you drinking
Cheers, Stacy.
today?
I am drinking a Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley.
Cheers. I am having a Malbec, not sure where from or why, but it was on sale. So there we are.
Very, very good. That's the best wine. The
It
one that's
tastes
on
great.
sale.
It does taste great.
Very
So
good.
Jessica, go ahead and tell us your story. I mean, I know we have a lot, but could you tell us more about your
Yeah.
favorite story of reading someone's resume?
Yeah. So this is a personal training applicant that came to drop off his resume in person at my club in Chicago. And this story just stands out like no other in my mind. In all my years of hiring, I have never had an applicant act in such a way. So first, this gentleman, we'll call him John, came to my club and came to the front desk to drop his resume off in person, which we don't see a whole lot of these days, but I appreciate the initiative. So he dropped off his resume and I didn't even get a chance to look at it. And he was already asking to have a sit down, to have an interview, to have a tour of the club. And when I happened to walk by the front desk, I was on my way to another meeting. So we let him know, hey, this isn't a good time. We're on our way to another meeting, but is this the correct number to reach you at? Because when we're done with the meeting, we can give you a call and we could set something up. And he's like, yes, that's fine. This is the right phone number to reach me at, but can I just take a tour real quick? And I'm like, you know what? It's a really large club, not enough time. As I said, I'm on my way to another meeting, so I'm gonna have to pass. So I left it at that and didn't even get a chance to review the resume at that point because I went into my other meeting. So when my previous meeting was over, I went back to the front desk because I left, I think I left like a notebook or something up there. And I was talking to the front desk guy who happened to be there to receive this gentleman, John, when he came in to drop off his application. And the front desk attendant said, yeah, John was actually here for about 20 minutes, who kept asking if he can go take a tour of the club. It was to the point where the front desk attendant felt uncomfortable after 20 minutes. So, this applicant, John, that was venting to the front desk attendant saying that we essentially blue-balled him for not just dropping everything. These were John's words, and taking him for an interview. Stacey, I don't use that term. So sorry for any PG people listening. So the front desk attendant was so uncomfortable with John being there venting for 20 minutes, he had to get another manager. And the only other manager that happened to be available was a manager of a completely different department. And so it was a female manager, and she had to go up to the front desk and be like, hey, you were already told several times that this isn't going to happen today. Like, they'll be in touch. And he made her feel so uncomfortable. And he was being creepy. We'll just go with creepy with her. So I'm told all this after the fact, and I'm like, absolutely not. Like, there is no way this guy is going to be a part of my team. So we go to call him. This was a number that was on his resume that he had verified. And of course, not the right number. Go figure. Go figure. So you can kind of see where this story is going. So we also reached out to him via email, and of course, nothing. So I'm like, you know what? I bet he's going to show up the next day. Like, I just knew he was going to show up, and he did. So
and Jessica was right.
And he did. He happened to show up when my general manager was at the front desk, and I really do respect my general manager. We'll call my general manager Jay. He has a big personal training background, so he kind of gets it. So Jay, the general manager of the club, was very much aware of this guy. And I hear Jay say, "Hey, we tried to call you." And I'm like, "That's John." I was ready for it. And so John was just like, "Oh, I didn't get a phone call." And Jay's like, "Well, we called the number that was on your resume." This is a very long story. I'm sorry, people. Grab your wine, grab your
It's all
popcorn.
good. It's all good. It's a very good story.
So anyway, we were telling John, like, "Yeah, we tried to call you, we tried to email you." He's like, "Well, I didn't get anything. Did you really try to call me?" Like implying that we didn't actually reach out to him.
Wow.
And like it was to the point where like we pulled up our the phone and we're like, "Here's the number that we called." He's like, "Oh yeah, well that's the wrong number." And it's like, well,
it's on your resume.
Exactly, right? And you confirmed it when we asked. So anyway, so we're like, you know what? Like it's just not gonna work out. Like you're not gonna be a part of the team. And this just sent John off the rails. Like he was screaming and he wanted to know why. He's like, "You have to tell me why." And we're like, "We don't have to tell you anything." And I'm so glad Jay was up there, our general manager, because I think that if I was up there alone, then it would have been a very different ending. But Jay handled it so professionally. He's like, "We don't have to tell you anything. Best of luck to you." And it was escalating. I mean, this was like a good 10-minute yelling match at the front desk from this guy, John. And he was like, "You're tarnishing my name." And we're like, "No one here knows your name.
No one knows and no one cares.
No one knows your name." It was just a thing. And so finally, Jay was just like, "You know what? Like you were a little bit vulgar yesterday saying that we blue balled you." Or Jay said you were a little vulgar when you told the front desk attendant that we cock blocked you. And John was like, "I didn't say cock blocked, I said blue balled." And we're like, "How is that better?"
Both are bad. Real bad.
Both are not something you want to say to potential employers. So if you're looking here for tips, don't say that to future employers.
Yeah, if you're an instructor looking for tips, don't say that.
That's not something to say. So it became it was a thing. So that was just probably the most wild encounter I've had with an applicant. And this was all before I even got a chance to review the resume. So by the time I did get a chance to review the resume, Staci, I believe I called you and it was just like, "I received this resume is wild, you guys." And I have it saved. That's how wild it is. John has things on it. First of all, spelling and grammatical errors, which that's the least of it. He talks about his time in the Catholic school and how he, after leaving the Catholic school, graduated with a new outlook on life and a huge chip on his shoulder. Maybe not the best thing to put in a resume. No, he was talking about like school, like theater performances he was in, and how he will write that he got a standing ovation and his play was a smash hit. He talked about how in several parts of his resume that he's worked with various different people and a group of kick-ass individuals. So those are just some bullet points on this.
That's so specific and powerful. Wow.
So I use this as a standard of what not to do in a resume and what not to do at a first impression. Just it was bad all around. So that is probably my wildest recent story. I don't think I've ever read a resume that is just so beyond anything, and I've never had anyone just come into the club and behave in such a way. So I think that's my story. I hope I didn't go over time there, but that was my story.
Well, it's such a good story because it has a touch of drama to it, but also
a lot of unnecessary drama that is not warranted.
Exactly. But also it's kind of addressing the fact that, you might read a resume, but there are also actions that are a part of whatever that instructor or personal trainer or Pilates teacher does when they send it to you, when they submit it to you, whether they bring it in person. And I like how you started with, wasn't horrible that he brought it in person. It probably could have given him major props if he acted appropriately.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. The fact that you read his resume was impressive to me after all that.
At that point, I was just kind of curious, like, who is this person? But had he dropped his resume off and acted professionally and left, I probably would have called him just based on the resume alone and just, I would have at least given him the decency of a phone call and just say, "You know what, like, thank you, but no thank you, we're not interested." If I had gotten this resume online through Indeed or wherever it is, I wouldn't have given it the time of day.
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh, at that point, yeah, absolutely not. Which may be why his strategy was to come into the building and be so
It was so
demanding.
he was not understanding at all
No.
why we were turning him away. It was
Wow.
unreal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So my story to follow up isn't quite as exciting, but since my newest role has been more of hiring applicants remotely, taking a look at resumes is an absolute like thing I have to do every single day
Mm-hmm.
as I look at all different areas of the country and I review these resumes. But the interesting piece is also when I review a resume that gives me very little to work from, and I try to give them a second chance by asking more questions. So this
Mm-hmm.
particular applicant comes to us from, I'll give you the location, Texas, and we'll call him Patrick. But he applied to be an instructor and coach for this particular company that is remote with me. And it was his resume was very intense in a lot of experience working with professional athletes, mid-level athletes, like very much that was his target audience and market he wanted to work with. So, but I didn't see any certifications. I didn't see any particular education that really
Yeah.
like certified him to work with our clients. So my first question to this gentleman was, thank you for applying. Please share a bit more about your certifications and experience coaching clients that may not be at the athletic level. So what I think I don't love is not only the context of what he says in his responses, but his attitude in the responses.
Mm-hmm.
Very much this ego, right? I think your applicant you shared your story about was also a great example of that ego, that there's no
Yeah.
training someone at that point. Like if someone has that ego, there's no helping someone get over that ego.
Absolutely. Like that's a problem that you are not going to solve. And if they have an ego
Yeah.
going in, I think you and I have learned this. If they have an ego going in, it's just
Yep.
going to get worse once they're actually a part of your team.
Yeah, you're stuck with it forever. That's just the ego you get to work with. So his response was, regarding certification education, I have a master's degree in applied sports and exercise science, which focused heavily on periodization and training cycles. I know what a master's degree in exercise science would entail. And I also completed a level 2 fitness training and instruction qualification while in England. That's not like, what is that? I don't know what that like.
Yeah.
Is it because it's in England that it's better than us, or I don't know.
That's not giving you any like relevant information.
No relevant information, exactly. And as you and I both agree on, and this may be one of those topics that like there are times where I think some instructors and coaches may have this understanding, like I have all this higher level education. Why do I need to get a certification? And myself and Jessica's stance on this is that it's the bare bones, bare minimum understanding of how to program and work with and treat a client.
Absolutely.
To work with, like it's like not, I don't even know how to like what kind of like comparison to have with it, but
it's wild. And I'm actually dealing this right now with a new applicant who we are just bringing on board. We just gave him an offer, and he has all the knowledge in the world. He has a background in exercise science, and he doesn't have a certification. So that's the struggle. And I mean, as you said, it is like the bare minimum industry standard. I don't care what degrees you have. I don't care if you have a master's. I don't care if you work with some fancy team in England. If you do not have a basic primary certification, then we cannot take you on as part of our team. It is the bare minimum.
Yeah, and for us in this remote industry I work with I so appreciate that you invested your time and energy in getting a degree. That'll put you further in some of the other roles that you could play.
Yeah.
But for liability reasons, when someone tries to get liability insurance as a professional, that's the first thing that liability insurance asks for, because it's something that's maintained over time. And so I think that's the difference for me too, is you could get your degree, and then we all know that the science behind a movement is changing all the time. And that doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily keep up with that unless you have that certification. So I love that you mentioned that. But After that, I asked a question to this gentleman once more, basically explaining that thank you for sharing your degree and additional education while
Hmm.
in England. I'm trying to boost his ego a little bit. But I explained to him, we're looking for coaches who have a primary personal training certification or a group fitness
Hmm.
instructor certification. Gave him some examples: ACE, NASM, ACSM, like just in
Sure.
case he needed a
Sure.
little, jogging of his
Something.
memory.
Yeah.
And then the best response was, absolutely. While I am privileged to work with talented athletes in the football industry, I tremendously enjoy and endorse people who are making positive steps through a healthy lifestyle and through exercise. That's so nice. But again, does that answer any of my questions?
It
No,
does not.
it does not.
He's so deferring the fact that he doesn't have a
He has
certification.
no certification. So once again, my final response, this is the last thing I messaged him, was, I'm so glad to hear you endorse people and making positive steps. I'm so sorry to laugh. I'm so glad you endorse people making positive steps toward regular exercise and a routine, but I am not reading any experience with that population. Once you've had more experience working with the general population and have a primary certification, please reach out directly. I think he sent me one more message, but I'm just going to wait until he has that certification. And
Yeah, does that message say that he's gotten certified? If not, then just
yep,
put it
yeah,
off to the side.
I'm just going to not respond until that necessary information that I've asked for has come up. So
Yeah.
that's my story. Hopefully it gives you context to a wonderful in-person experience and virtual experience. So now, Jessica, tell me a bit more about some of the common things you tend to see on a resume that are like kind of mind-boggling to you, that you're surprised by, I guess, when you see a resume.
So, so there's a couple. I mean, with resumes, one thing that I'm seeing a lot of is no certification, or they were certified years ago,
Mhm.
and just the experience is not in this industry.
Yep.
So when I get applicants primarily for personal trainers now, I get people who either were certified and taught at a gym for like 6 months in like 2017, or I get people who maybe they were just brand new, like just recently got certified, but no experience and they're in a different industry. So I'm struggling right now with finding what I call the trifecta, which is education and experience. It is education, certifications, experience, and personality. So
Mhm.
those are the three things. And I feel like maybe I have high standards. I don't know, but I feel like
No.
it's almost that meme where it's like you have the 3 points and it's like you can only pick two. And I don't want to pick two. I want to pick all three. Maybe I'm greedy, but I want personality. I want someone to have experience, some kind of experience, or at least let me know in their resume why they want to become a personal trainer or start in the fitness industry, because I understand everyone starts somewhere. And I
Mhm.
feel like I have a soft spot for new instructors and new trainers, and I'm
Mhm.
willing to train the right person to be a good trainer. But you need to let me know why you want to get started and why I should take the time to bring you on as part of my team. So I'm struggling to find some kind of balance. So I see all kinds of weird stuff on resumes now, Staci. I think the weirdest one I saw recently was a resume of this guy applying as a personal trainer, and I think he has a lot of experience, but I'm not quite sure because his resume was so jumbled. I
Yeah.
couldn't even follow it. It was just, I mean, from what I saw, it was good experience at clubs. And if the resume made sense and was formatted, I
Mhm.
probably would have given him a call and invited him in for an interview. And then it was a 2-page resume, or it was at least over a page. And at the bottom of the first page, it said in bolded letters, for the last 7 years, I've. And then I'm just like, you what? I'm like, did it get cut off? And I go to the next page and it's nowhere there. And I'm reading through this whole resume because it's just formatted so weird. Like, I'm just trying to find out what this guy's done. Like, this guy's done for the past 7 years. And I couldn't figure it out. That was the weirdest one that I've seen. Like, I almost wanted to call and be like, hey, I have no interest in hiring you because your resume is awful. But like, can you just let me know what you've done for the past 7 years?
This cliffhanger's killing me. I can't take it.
I just want to know what you've been doing. That's all.
I love that story so much because I agree. I see they're all over the place. there's
all over the
gaps
place.
in resume. You know, there's like these big long stints where you're like, what'd that
Yeah.
person do for the past
Yeah.
7 years?
What is your philosophy on gaps, Staci? Like, do you give them a
Yeah.
pass? Like, does that bother you if someone has a gap on a resume?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. Like, my biggest thing is like, I hope instructors and coaches understand that we're really looking at the resume. I think sometimes they put so much effort into the way it looks. Like they have a picture, they have this pretty color, pretty font, and they use this nice format. But the actual meat of the resume, like the things we need to read and understand has
Mm-hmm.
been happening in your life and career is missing, or it's not organized, or like you mentioned, the non-industry related experience. So if they're outside of the fitness industry, if you are someone who's applying to be a fitness instructor and you have experiences like a bartender or a waitress, or I don't know, like some form of a service worker, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. That could be related to personal training, to group fitness,
definitely.
but you have to connect the dots for us. Like, what are some of the things that you did in that role that relate to
Mm-hmm.
being an effective personal trainer? Like, if you can understand that and see that, that's a sign for us, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that you kind of have experience. Like, at least you get that understanding that we are
The
kind of,
service aspect,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So there
because
are
we
ways
are in the
to,
service industry.
yes, yeah, there are ways to connect the dots. So I think that's where, if it's, even if they may not have a ton of experience in this industry, if they can show that they understand what it takes to be a
Mm-hmm.
personal trainer or be a group fitness instructor, that's huge to me. But yeah, the gap thing, I think the biggest thing is right now, the pandemic is a place where I think people have this big gap. And there is a big excuse there. Like you definitely, all of us were thrown for a loop. You know, we weren't prepared for anything like that. None of us predicted anything like that. But to show that you did nothing during that time, I don't care if you just took that time to educate yourself, or you, because it was free. You were getting deals beyond deals on conferences because they were all online. You were having the ability to get manuals in some cases for free, webinars for free. So you had to have at least done something during that time. So
Yeah.
a huge gap between, I think during the pandemic is a big red flag for me. But also the weird gaps that we see in general, are a red flag, because as you and I know, there's importance in the consistency of being an instructor or being a
Yes.
personal trainer, because things changed. The
Mm-hmm.
industry's changed a
Yeah,
lot even since the pandemic. So
definitely.
those are big. The other thing I notice, and I don't know if you feel this way too, is like sometimes I think the effort isn't put in the resume, the actual really pertinent information, but it's like poured out in the cover letter. Like,
Yeah, I have noticed that. And that's
yeah,
kind of a struggle for me. I think that might be like a formatting thing because I
yeah.
don't want to read like I feel like a lot of cover letters that I come across are essentially someone's biography. And
Mhm.
like I would love to learn more about you, but I want to learn the important things.
Yep.
What experience do you have? What education do you have? What are you going to bring that's valuable to my team and my club? I don't
Yep.
need to know what you've been doing since
Yeah.
2007,
And
and where you were
anyone,
born.
exactly. And anyone can say they're passionate. Anyone can say like
Yeah.
pretty juicy words or whatever you want to put on a cover letter, but it's that practical experience, that practical like education that's what we're looking for, because the other stuff you can show us in the interview and in the audition, which will both address even more good stories
In a later episode.
in a future episode. But what are your, I guess, recommendations to try to look past all of this? So, what do you do like when a resume like it ends up in your lap or ends up on your screen? What do you look at first? What's your strategy?
So when I first get a resume, what do I do? So if it's an applicant that I'm interested in, I will reach out to them right away to at least set up a phone screen.
Yep.
So I try to give them a call first, just because I don't want to sleep on it. Like I want them to know that there's a little bit of urgency. I'm interested, and let's talk and see if you're a good fit. I get a lot of voicemails. I am also one of those people where I don't answer for a number I don't know. So I
Mhm.
totally understand that. So then I typically follow up with an email and let them know, like, thank you for your interest. I just left you a voicemail, but I'm interested in setting up a time for a phone screen to see if you would be a good fit for my team. Surprisingly, with all the applicants I get, there's a lot of people who don't respond, which is
Wow.
shocking. But I
Wow.
don't know if you have this, but I think that if you're taking the time to apply to a job, then you're interested on some level. But I feel like with all the voicemails and emails that I send out, trying to at least set up a phone screen, I
Mhm.
feel like the return is very low, and I don't
Wow.
know what that
Yeah.
is. So it's very interesting. It's like
Mhm.
if you're not interested, then don't apply. Or were you just like going through personal training jobs online and just like automatically like click click click? I don't know, but it's very. I don't know. It's just kind of a bizarre world that we live in now.
It
So I
is.
try to set
Yeah.
yeah, I just try to set something up right away. And once I get the phone screen set up, then I typically let them know, like, I don't want to take up your whole day. I just kind of want to get to know you, get a feel for you, know what you're interested in, and hear about you, and just try to get to know them. Are we talking about phone screens in this episode, or then saving that one for the next episode?
You
Saving that for the
can,
next
we're going to save
episode?
that for the next episode,
I'll
but
save it for the next episode. I got another story.
I love hearing that you're having that issue because I think people can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
That I can relate to that because my process is a little bit different. I
Mm-hmm.
again remote. I what I do
Mm-hmm.
is I send them a invite, and I highly recommend that managers use this. Is an automation called Calendly or some form of like an
Oh,
automated
Calendly.
calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you fill in when you're available, and then they can click the link, select a time. All of my interviews are done virtually, even if they're
Mm-hmm.
local to me, actually, because we don't have a physical location to go and interview them for.
Mm-hmm.
So my issue is similar to yours, is that I can reach them in that I send them an email and basically give them a link to schedule a time. They schedule a time, but I will say I don't know, I haven't run the percentage exact, but I would say like my guess would be like 20% of them don't show up to what so they not only selected the time by themselves, they get an automated email that sends them the link for the meeting. They get
Mm-hmm.
another automated email that reminds them of the meeting, the day, the time, the calendar invite, and the link is all there. And then I
Mm-hmm.
think I set it up so that like the day before they get an invite, and I think even 2 hours before they get another
So
reminder.
there is no reason to not
There's
show
no
up.
reason. And even then, I think with this, the sad part is that even then, when someone misses it again for like maybe it's like the second time that week out of like 10 interviews you have, I'll go to my husband and I'll be like, man, you know what? Maybe I need to tweak my process. Maybe it's on me. Like I start blaming myself, but then when I say it out loud, I'm like, there's zero reason you should miss this interview. So
Yeah.
I mean, to like agree with you, I guess it's a different process, but it's absolutely happening.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like if you're no longer interested in the position, if you got another job or you realize this job doesn't suit you, then just give
Yep.
the courtesy of just reaching out and just say, you know what, I'd like to withdraw my application. Like I'm no longer interested in
Yeah.
this position.
Yeah.
Just
Send
super
a quick,
easy.
yeah,
Yeah,
quick
yeah. We'll move
message,
on.
quick
Yeah.
email. No, exactly. Just not to waste our time. And I have to
Yeah.
prevent the bummer is that I saved that spot for that applicant to have an interview. And that
Mm-hmm.
means that that spot is now taken from someone who's not going to show up. And I could have had someone else in that spot. So that's awful.
Yeah, it's like no showing a client, right? Like that's why
Mhm.
we typically have in the
Yeah.
fitness world like a 24-hour cancellation policy. I'm sure that's kind of the norm for most clubs and gyms, because if someone cancels in that time spot, then you have 24 hours to fill that gap and then you don't get paid as a trainer or an instructor. So it's the same thing. We don't like wasting our time. Just
No,
don't waste the time.
exactly.
I don't know what that is, Staci.
Exactly. So to recap kind of what we mentioned, we shared our wonderful stories. We described what are some things that are annoying to us as managers as we review resumes. But to recap, some of the things that you had mentioned were that when you get a resume, you look at kind of the overall layout of it. Does it have the important information that you need? Education and certifications are really the most important to both of us. Experience, while it may not always be the same or necessarily super relevant to the fitness industry, if it can relate and they can connect the dots, in most
Yeah.
cases, we're okay with that. I love how you mentioned too how you call them right away, how you try to be
Yeah.
quick. That's a
Mm-hmm.
huge strategy I think more managers need to take advantage of. That
Mm-hmm.
I think there's actually a study Indeed did, which is what I think both of us use pretty predominantly in hiring instructors and trainers. They did a study that like most people will lose their interest in a role or have found another job opportunity within like 3 days, like 3 days of applying,
Really?
like super
Wow.
fast. Yeah, so you got to be kind of quick. And that usually that sense of urgency really helps. I think getting a message fast, whether it's a phone
Yeah.
call or a message, is huge.
I mean,
Um,
I just feel like, we're both in big cities, and if someone is applying for a personal training job in my club, they're applying for personal training jobs everywhere. So if they have a good enough resume where I'm interested, then there's probably quite a few other locations that are interested in them as well. So I want to jump on it.
Totally, totally. So be fast. And then red flags we kind of mentioned were employment gaps, training without a certification. And you had mentioned in our previous notes, like independent contractor tends to kind of pop up as
Yeah.
an
So I
issue.
don't know. Yeah. So I don't know if you get this a lot, but I feel like since the pandemic, maybe a little bit before, but definitely since the pandemic, a lot of fitness professionals are business owners or independent contractors. And you're putting that on, they're putting them on that resume.
Mhm.
And what I've learned kind of from experience is independent contractor on a resume, at least for me, translates to I want to keep my job at training people in my home or in a local studio or fitness facility, but I want to join your team part time so I can steal members, so I can steal clients. So I feel bad saying that because I know there are independent contractors or people who started their own training business, and that's not the case. But when
Yeah.
if you're putting that on a resume, and if you say you've been having your own personal training, independent contractor, business owner from 2020 to present, then chances are the hiring manager is reading it as you don't really want to be a team player. You don't really
Yeah.
want to work
Mhm.
in a club setting or with another underneath a manager. And you just want to get clients for your own
Yeah.
business. I mean, when we get to our interviews, I mean, I've had quite a few phone screens and even in-person interviews where they've let me know that that's the case. And so I'm very hesitant to
Yeah.
even reach out to someone now.
Yeah, and you're not alone. I'm sure more and more of us are experiencing that. It's, I think, going to have to be, I think something even actually more recently, I went to a webinar for, they mentioned in the webinar about like kind of the trends of
Mm-hmm.
2023 or wherever we're in, whatever you're watching this or listening to this and beyond. And one of them was, it was a big deal in the pandemic. Like that's all they had. A lot of trainers, a lot of
Right.
instructors, their own potential business or kind of under the table
Yeah.
payment with clients,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hitting kind of ahead where they're recognizing that if they want to have a full-time career, they need to either look at one place, which is going to make it so easy for them to just
Mm-hmm.
work full-time, have benefits, have, clients, if you can continue to just put in the time to build your career at that facility, you're most likely going to do really well. But if you really want to do your own thing, then just do your own thing. That can't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily be, you can work at multiple places potentially if you're teaching classes or I don't know. There's some combination that can happen, but it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a lot harder and it comes with less benefits and it comes with
Mm-hmm.
paying business taxes. Like those are all the things that you're going to have to put forth in order to have less comfort in a full-time position
Mm-hmm.
at one facility. So it's this learning, I think, path that people are struggling with as we come out of the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if you started your own personal training business in the pandemic and you're still thriving, then more power to you. You
But
found
yeah.
something that works and stick with it. But I think now, as clubs are reopening and people are going back to work and people don't want to work out at home as much,
Mhm.
um, there's more of a need for personal trainers in a health club or a gym setting. And I feel like the independent contractors are kind of realizing that. And they're trying to figure out how they can get paid too. I mean, I would probably do the same thing. How can I make sure that I still have my business that I worked so hard for the past couple of years? I don't
Mhm.
want it to go under. You put a lot of heart and soul into that, but you
Mhm.
need clients. But the right way to get clients is not to pull from a health club.
No, yeah, business integrity, like, and read your there.
Yeah.
While non-competes aren't quite as existent anymore, where you can't like work other places, there are definitely still non-competes in place that hold validity if you're actively taking clients from a facility. Like
Yeah.
that is
My
going
club
to hold
has
up in
one.
court no matter what.
Yeah, my club actually has that within a certain mile radius. You can't work for us and take our clients within this certain mile radius. And my club has taken people to court before over it.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
is,
So
I mean, it's poaching. You're taking business away from us.
yeah. Yeah. There has to be a side, like we have to see both sides in a way,
Totally.
the club is
Totally.
giving you a lot, the overhead of running a facility. Like I wish more trainers understood that and more instructors understood that. Like they're not trying to gyp you on what they pay you or how much they can give you as they try to make revenue with the services you provide. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much electricity, water, towels,
Things you
eucalyptus.
don't even think about. I love the eucalyptus towels, Staci. Those are a
Yes.
game changer. The cool eucalyptus towels. I
Yeah.
just want to bathe in those.
Yes. Love it. I
Side
love
note.
it. So they're not all trying to get you, I guess, is what we're trying to say. There's a lot of other opportunities, but you've got to find that
Yeah,
combination or one thing for yourself.
absolutely.
So I could see where that could potentially be a red flag. You just have to get curious, ask lots of
Yeah,
questions about
lots of
that.
questions.
I love it. One strategy I didn't mention that I wanted to say was I'm glad we talked about how it's been challenging sometimes to get applicants to show up or answer their phone or
Mhm.
respond to anything. But the other thing with, I think, if you're doing a job board or you have a job board up on an Indeed or, a LinkedIn or whatever you're trying to gain instructors from or personal trainers from, do try to, in your response and your communication with them directly, is if you're inviting them for an interview or you're inviting them for a phone screen, is to articulate something you saw in their resume that's specific. Because unfortunately, a lot of companies who aren't in the fitness industry are taking advantage of personal trainers, and they're like looking for more real estate agents or something, and they'll post a job that'll say, and I didn't even know this until someone who met with me in an
Oh,
interview was,
interesting.
yeah, who met with me in an interview was like, I thought this was a scam because it was a remote company. Like it
No.
had all the red flags, but they thankfully met with me and gave me that feedback. So now I think what's helped me in having more applicants show up for a remote position is I've said something like, let's say I read something about them being a dance instructor, and I mention when I invite them for the interview or invite them for the phone screen, I am curious and looking forward to hearing more about your dance instructing between these times. So try to be kind of specific. And what's cool is I think that's really helped with people showing up for interviews and people responding. So that
I think
was
that's a great point.
my
Yeah,
last
I love that, Staci. Just that little extra touch to go above and beyond.
yeah, and it shows that you're paying attention, and then they're a bit more
Absolutely.
interested in showing up for you. So
Yeah.
I think that's all. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I feel like we hit a lot. I mean, the fact that we even have a 4-part series on hiring new talent, I think is insane.
Yeah.
Because you and I are very passionate about what we do. I mean, we could be here all night. We could go through bottles of wine, but I think we're gonna
Yeah.
save everyone from dealing with that. I
Yeah.
think we hit it all tonight, Staci.
Yeah, we gave a lot of good info and fun stories. So as you listen to this, as you can relate to this, and as you take down your own notes about maybe some of the strategies we've shared, do feel free to reach out with your own strategies. We'd love to hear your own fun stories. And we have, like Jessica said, more to share. So we do have a 4-part series. This was part 1. Next up is that we're going to go through is kind of the phone screen, the interview kind of process, what our processes are, what stories we have to tell. And then we'll go as far as the next episode is all about auditions, or kind of that next in-person opportunity for someone to show you how they teach or they lead and they work with a client. And then the last episode will be on hiring, will be all about kind of that second interview. If that's something you do, or if you do, what do you do to kind of wrap up or start onboarding that new employee or independent contractor. So more to come, more wine to drink, or whatever beverage of choice. And we appreciate you so much for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you.